So why are we here? Let's talk about this. Why are we here? Lynn, who did you train with? Did you train with Todd James or the Andreas group?
I'm in the middle of training with the Andreas group.
Right on. And what you're doing core transformation and wholeness work with them, right? Not NLP training?
Yes, I sent a note to Tara. I am waiting for my credit card to roll over, and then I will purchase your program.
Right on. Well, okay, so just in 2022, we made a major shift in how we do business, right? Yeah, so, well, no, it's a good thing for you. It's a good thing for you or anybody else who wants to learn NLP, I think. Tara and I have recorded all our lessons in NLP on videos. You know, they are the quality they are, but it's all there. You can watch and rewind and watch and listen again. If you come to a 7-day training with you, some of us, Tanya did the 8-week program with us. Liz did a 7-day intensive with us. It's like being hit with a fire hose of data, right? You need to have a big cognitive net. And I think the thing that when you do a 7-day intensive, you feel really good because you start the day with upbeat music, you end the day with upbeat music, you know, you're in the experience. But keeping it all in, you literally have to have cotton batting or plugs in your ears, your eyes, your nose, or wherever else you put them. And just to keep the information aboard. And I never wanted to teach online, but when COVID happened, we decided to. So people like Tanya and who else did a prac online? Carrie and Beverly did prac online with us and it was 10 sessions over 8 weeks, plus study, plus questions, plus stuff. And at the end of that, I was pleasantly surprised that these guys' retention of what we taught was way higher than the 7-day intensive. The people who retained stuff from the 7-day intensive were those people who got busy and started coaching right after. You know, if you start using the tools the next day, then they stay with you, right? But if you wait a month, you know, the literature on the decline is pretty steep, even in the way we teach. So so we've made the decision, like in an average course for us, we'd have all sorts of people, right? We'd have business people, we'd have personal development people, and we'd have people who want to be coaches. So I've made the decision, and Tara concurs with it, that we are no longer going to teach prac. I have the ability to teach prac, to offer prac online, pre-recorded, and you become an associate, an NLP practitioner associate. And you still get registered with the American Board of NLP, but you're not a full practitioner. Then if you want to coach, I'm going to run a 3-day intensive and redo the material of NLP and timeline therapy. And I'm also offering that 3-day intensive as an audit. So if anybody wants to review the material, come in for 3 days, and it's specifically NLP and timeline therapy, right? And the cost of those two courses together, I think the 3-day intensive is $2,000 and the online is $700. So it's $2,700, whereas prac was $4,000 before. So it's actually a cost savings. And now you've said you wanted to coach. So the next thing to do is PACE, which is I think it's $3,000 this year. So those 3 courses together are now around $4,700. Sorry, $5,700. But if you had done prac and PACE previously, it would have been way more money.
Okay, right? Cool.
Yeah, so we've actually lowered the cost, but the program's literally only applicable to people who want to be coaches, right? There's no use doing it if you're into business or personal growth. And I've got some fabulous friends who are trainers who, if you want to do it that way, go that way. And then finally, so, you know, I would call that our IO, our Inspired Outcomes Coaching program. And then if you want to be an Inspired Outcomes, but if you want to buy that as package, I'm just finishing formulating this. If you want to become a coach and you buy the whole enchilada from prac online, 3-day intensive and PACE, I'm also doing 6 hours of one-on-one coaching and 2 client reviews with you. Because you're a coach, I want to help you when you come out. When I say I will, you know, if Tara's time permits, given COVID and kids, she will participate in that. But yeah, so if you want to be an IO coach, we restructured the program. So it starts with prac online, where you self-study, prac 3-day intensive, and then PACE. And that package of courses together plus 6 hours of one-on-one coaching with me. So we blow out any of the things that are holding you back, and then 2 client reviews. So your first 2 clients I'll review with you in depth, right? I would suggest if you could record them, that'd even be cool, right? And then we could actually look at the recordings. So that'll be the IO coach. And then if you want to be an IO master coach, then you'll buy it as a package, and you'll have everything in the first package plus master practitioner in July this summer, plus another 4 hours of unstoppable coaching with me after you finish master prac. And the unstoppable coaching is just focused on installing those attributes in you that you need to wake up every day and come to work. It's kind of like what they do on trainers training, where they install 34 attributes in you in the first week.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what's coming in. I'm just still fleshing it all out on the website, so don't ask me for details. They're just coming together. Right?
Okay.
You got it all off the top of my head. So it'll all be there for you, Lynn, when you're ready. And
Cool.
you can buy it piecemeal. You can buy it as a package. You can do whatever you choose. So, and I like the ideas of my credit cards rolling over. You know, it's kind of like training bad dogs. I haven't figured out how to get mine to roll over yet. They just sit. They're like bad dogs. My credit cards are like bad dogs. Yeah, and so PACE is a little different. So you guys have already done PACE. Last year, we said if you buy any of our courses, you have lifetime access to the vault. Nobody else does that, right? The videos are there for you forever. But I'm just redoing the videos in PACE, how they're sitting there, because the videos in PACE now become the pre-study. Everybody has to complete the pre-study before they come on to PACE. And that way, because we're getting feedback that Tara and I have incrementally grown the content inside PACE, but we're still teaching it in the same time frame, 3 days. But we put like 5 days of content into a 3-day period. So it's like being hammered with a fire hose again. So we're saying, no, you've got to do a pre-study, 3 to 4 weeks, watch the videos. Then you've seen all the material. You've heard the explanation. Then you come in the course. Now we can have richer conversations and we can do more fun things, right? Still a 5-day course. And the other thing about PACE is you get to do a practicum, right? You get to do a full breakthrough with someone and they get to do a full breakthrough with you. So for those of you who are interested, and how many people here use the ZTPI? Anybody who's using? Tanya's using it. I know Larissa uses it. I think Lee does. I think Laura might. Yeah, Larissa does. Liz might. I'm not 100% sure. I'm 100% sure when Carrie finishes PACE, she'll be using it. Anyway, so ZTPI, the first Z stands for a guy named Zimbardo, Phil, former head of the psychology department at Stanford and former head of the American Psychological Association. I finally made contact with Phil. Phil and I are now email buddies. And Phil is very interested in how all of us are using his ZTPI. And so I have a Zoom call with Phil Zimbardo this week. Woo-ha, right? We've arrived. Our work's being recognized. So that's kind of fun. So the tool you use, he was also, as the president of the American Psychological Association, he did a lot of good things. Nobody says anything bad about Phil Zimbardo. So unfortunately, he's in his late 80s and he has some health issues. So hopefully he'll be around long enough that he can see his work, his creation being used for good, a lot of good. The more people we can train and use it, the more people we can help. Right on. So tonight I put it out there. You know, last week was about writing your narrative, telling your story, right? How many people took the time to start writing their narrative? Let's see a show of hands. Carrie did. Beverly, you didn't write your narrative. Tanya, did you have your hand up or no? And a bunch of people are eating dinner with their cameras off, right? When you write your narrative, as you write your narrative, part of your brain's going to be going, oh no, right? Oh no. Part of your brain's going to be going, oh yeah, let's do this. And part of your brain's going to go, oh no, right? If you're writing a narrative that's big and inspiring, part of you should be scared poopless and part of you should be excited to tears, right? Every big adventure has both sides to that. Every big adventure, especially if you know, you're moving in a self-determining way. Some of you have jobs, some of you don't have jobs, and now you're working into this self-employment, right, of being a life coach. giving up some of the stuff. Well, when we give up some of the stuff behind us, you know, our psyche, our neurology really likes familiar. Our psyche, by and large, right across, you know, one standard deviation on either side of the middle, 68% of the population do not like change. Think about that. So everybody on this call who's becoming a coach are change people. And managing change takes some work. All right. So some of you have been coaching for a while, like Larissa's been coaching for a while. Tanya's been NDing for a while. I don't know everybody's backstory. Laura's been coaching for a while. I don't know Kristen's back. Tara Guzzo's been an ND for quite a while and now making the transition into coaching. But when you do that, you're still going to leave a little bit behind. And, you know, part of what you're doing is exciting and part of what you're doing is a little unnerving, right? So when we write our narrative, that helps quiet the mind. And what should come up when you're writing your narrative are the challenges that you might face in this transition, right? Every transition has challenges. Every transition has challenges. And so to understand what your challenges are, you can't solve a problem that you don't know exists, right? And in my background, maybe my nature, actually, I may come out of the womb with some of this, but certainly I was nurtured this way. In my military training and when I was the course director for the United Nations course, we taught planning. We taught risk assessment and planning, right? So it's nurtured the hell into me, right? To write a plan and then perceive all the risk, potential threats to the plan, and then create mitigation plans for every risk, right? When I was a young lieutenant in the military flying tactical helicopters, we called it Max Flex. Max Flex. Now, some of my peers thought Max Flex was you get in the helicopter, you go do what you want. Max Flex, woo-ha, right? Well, that quickly becomes a cluster, you know what, because we were flying in formation, 4 or 8 helicopters at a time, close together in river valleys. So we couldn't be seen by radar. So you need to have a really good plan and understand all the threats to that plan and then have contingencies to that plan. Because when you're in training, the staff, they're called directing staff, are really evil buggers. And they're always throwing wrenches into your plan. So you have to respond in real time at 100 miles an hour at 15 feet above the ground with 7 helicopters behind you. You don't have time to put the helicopter down, go grab a coffee. And then when Tara and I lived in Kenya, my sister called me and said, "What do you do for a living, Alan? I'm confused." I said, "Oh, it's really simple, Kathy. People, organizations like the European Union and Reuters and World Vision pay me to think evil on their behalf and then make sure it doesn't happen." And she said, "That must take its toll." And I went, my sister's so wise. She's so wise. So part of my nature, when I write a plan, I'm automatically, part of my brain, you know, we have parts, right? Part of my brain in support of the plan is saying, okay, well, how can this come off the rails? And it's not negative thinking. It's smart thinking. It's smart thinking. So you guys who have been following along since the beginning of December, when I introduced lean methodology from Udemy University, right? Ash Mariah. Lean startup and the methodology of writing your business plan, getting to know who your client is, and then doing a real deep dive into your own values, the 3 I's. And then we at the last session of the new year was talking about storytelling. And Kristen, I don't have your video for you yet. And then we moved into the new year talking about writing your narrative, your business plan. I don't want to call them business plans. I mean, business plans sound too formal for what I think we do, right? We need to have a narrative, a story. We need to have a story about where we are and where we're going and all the good we're going to do along the way. But that narrative's got to have some issues facing. If it doesn't, I'm going to say your narrative isn't energetic enough. Your narrative is too small for who you are. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have the capability of writing a big narrative, right? You wouldn't be doing what you're doing. You wouldn't be going through what you're doing if your goal was to write a really small narrative. I want to retire to my backyard and garden in a 4x6 plot of petunias. That's it. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have paid the price you're paying. Does that make sense? So who's thought about some of the challenges they're going to face? My new whiteboard. Woo-ha! No more rollaway. Cool. Who's thought about some challenges they might face? Anybody have a good challenge? Please don't say more clients. Carrie, what's your challenge?
Stepping out of my comfort zone. I mean, you can't achieve a new outcome without, I guess, new action.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. That's a very interesting, that's a good one, right? I think that really is the challenge. Seriously, that is the challenge. Because we're embarking on new careers, we want to do new things, but we're constrained by some of our own thought about ourselves, right? Who we are. Cool. Well, we'll dive into that. Who else has a challenge? Beverly.
Taking the first step.
Cool. And what's the challenge? What is stopping you from taking it? The first step is the action. What is the challenge in doing that?
Picking up the phone or getting a Facebook page, like just doing it.
Okay. What's stopping you from doing it? Those are all activities. I can get my 11-year-old to make you a Facebook page in the morning if you want. Okay. It's just an activity. You just have to pick up. And you don't even have to ask him. Tara will I'll tell you to get him to make you a page in the morning. It'll be shitty, but it'll get done.
The confidence.
Confidence. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Beverly, I didn't mean to lean on you too hard, but you're really identifying things that are quite doable by almost everybody, right? Yeah. But you can't do them, and it's not the thing that's the problem. So now you've identified the problem. Cool. Liz had up in the notes. What did Liz write? Cool. Too much information in your head, right? The belief that you have too much information. Cool. Who else has a big problem to their narrative? The narrative they're going to pull the trigger on this year, right? And the narrative starts with, my book's on my desk, but your narrative should start with, it is January 1st, 2023. And then the vision statement for what you did this year. And then following that is the lean startup methodology. Who else has a big problem? Larissa's in again. Larissa's demonstrating multiple personalities tonight. There's two of her. Come on, guys. You must have some problems you can share. What are the biggest things impeding your progress? Larissa.
Deciding. Oh, shit.
Hello.
Hello. Really, like, I don't know, the word commitment keeps coming up, but like deciding on the avatar and sticking to it. Cause it's like, you can make me do so many things, but for some reason, this is like paralyzing to me. And it's not something that's been around for a little while. It's been around for forever. Like since I was 14, handed a university calendar saying, what are you going to do with your life? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know.
Well, turn off one of the three microphones.
No, I'm off. I'm only on one. That's my child talking about his bathroom business.
All right. So at 14, if somebody handed me a university calendar, I would have said, well, I'm going to go to school for 4 more years. So there you go. I had to go to grade 13.
Staying organized and on track being a new coach and business owner.
Yeah. Yeah. What's holding you back from being organized, on track?
Starting everything.
Yeah, and what's
Like-
holding you back from starting? Because that's just activity again, right?
Right. Okay, that makes
The
sense.
you guys are identifying the standard things. If you went to a community center to write a business plan, you guys are putting down the problems that they'd have you address. But the problems aren't a problem out external to us, they're inside us. The problems that are holding us back are in here. You know, and talking honestly, my plans are so big for this year. I just hired a new EA. If you spoke to Danielle and say, what's Alan's number one problem? Getting everything done in a day. Well, that's not the problem. The problem is inside me, right? That's the output. Yes, I'm not getting all the things done I need to get done. I haven't got your damn video, but that's not the problem. The problem's in me. So what is the problem, Kristen? You're not starting, you're not doing.
Yeah, I think it would be low confidence in
All right.
the process, like in my process. Yeah, like low confidence.
Mine is spelling tonight. Cool. Who else has
I
a
am
problem?
doing PACE, by the way. I signed up for PACE, so that.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that. Well, so just on that note, you guys, I had an aha moment. Like I've run call centers for companies before Tara and I moved here. You know, when we came back to Canada, I had 3 kids to feed before we had 5 kids to feed. So I had to work, and Tara had to work. So when we came back to Canada, there were no developing nations to work in. So I worked for a company that was working with First Nations, and we were attracting clients. So I built them a call center and ran a call center. And in a call center, you have to measure everything. What gets measured gets done. And then during COVID, we bought a course from Sam Ovens. You guys, anybody who's been online looking at online courses, Sam runs a course on how to run successful online courses. And I got to peek in Sam's call center, right? And every step of the call cycle is on a whiteboard, right? And you can't do step C if you haven't done A and B first. And you can't just keep doing A and A and A and over. You have to start with A and take a client all the way through to the purchase point or the exit point, right? And so part of that, all the things you need to get done, when you say you registered, I know that because I have a big whiteboard on the other room where all the people who might take a course are on one column, and then all the people who have signed up in the other course for the next 2 quarters are in their appropriate course. So I saw your name move. Right. And I go look at that board every day. I'm teaching now. I look at that board every day. I walk in and I stare at that board. Because if you were here and I walked you through that board, I would tell you what each column, what revenue it's worth. Why would I do that? Because if I don't make money, I can't help anybody. I can't run a trauma clinic out there if I can't run the back office, right? So many of us have a fear of money. We talk about we want money, but we have a fear of it. We have a fear of what it takes, right? Nobody said fear yet, which is interesting. Who else has a big problem, a big challenge? If you wrote a statement really quickly, it is January 1st, 2023, and then write down what you're going to have accomplished, how many people you will have coached, how much revenue you will have made, where will you have spoken, what will you have written, what will your Facebook look like? Hopefully it won't look like anything, but what will your LinkedIn look like? What will your Twitter account should be moved to Getter? Get off Twitter, go to Getter. You know, start hosting your stuff on Substack. But anyways, that's just my thoughts. Cool. Who else has a problem they want to share? Hey, Laura, your camera's off. Hey there. Who else has another challenge they want to put up on the board?
I do.
Carrie, then Laura.
For me, like, it's the consistency thing.
Yeah.
And then I'll get really energized about promoting on Instagram and then I'll go dark. Or I'll have, I'll do a great live event and build this, these great relationships, and then I go dark.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I know what the underlying issue is, but it's a
What is it?
challenge.
So what's stopping you from being consistent? That's an activity.
I think there's definitely fear around judgment, and like, if you're building rapport, you're building a relationship. If we get too close, then I have to. It's almost like it's like a fear of commitment, of delivering this on my promise to help someone. What if I can't? What if they see through?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it. There's so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So the real issue is fear,
Mhm.
not consistency. And funny enough, comfort zone and fear seem to go hand in hand to me.
Mhm.
Cool. That's better. Who else? Laura, you had up your hand.
Yep. I would say for me, it is belief in myself and my ability.
Okay, anybody else? This is a very cool list, huh? It's a very cool list. Anybody else want to throw one up? Lee or Tara?
I have a few to add, Al,
A few, huh?
but you got to give me a minute. I'm
All
just
right.
going to come to the computer.
Tara's multitasking at a level that's superhuman. We have enough animals that we probably qualify as a zoo. So she's a zoo manager. And then we have 3 kids who are being homeschooled in French. So she's and they're in separate grades. So she's an educator. And then she
I just finished painting a bedroom is what I just did.
and she's a painter. And she's a life coach. Man, I'm way down on the totem pole.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Throw in husband just for good measure.
You're a trophy husband instead of a trophy wife, right?
Well,
You
thank
might
you for
with the paint colors, right?
thank you for putting in the trophy part. I appreciate that. It's a, I don't know what's wrong with our 11-year-old son. He didn't want to sleep in a pink bedroom. I don't understand that. I understand from my feminist friends that color and toys don't indicate anything about masculinity and femininity, but my 11-year-old boy refused to sleep in pink. So
I don't
that was just a rub to all my feminist friends. And it was my daughter's bedroom. She's now in a greeny blue bedroom, which she doesn't want. So there you go. Tara, what's your problems? Give it to us. Be
No,
gentle.
she likes that room. All right. I was listening that whole time. I was just finishing. Yeah, you know what I think is important?
Sorry, Tara.
What?
So just to prove she runs a zoo, look at the cat up above her right shoulder.
And look at the one that
There's
just
another
jumped in the
one.
bottom.
Another one just jumped in.
Yeah.
But it's either a zoo or a cat house. But anyways, what's your problem?
Well, I don't have any anymore, but I sure did. And one of the things that I think is really important there is to make sure that you want to be doing the things that you believe you have to do. So I work a lot with people who, again, I'm going to talk about Lee because Lee and I talk a lot. So we talked about this today a little, but if someone were, I think it's a really useful thing to ask yourself the question, if someone gave me a crystal ball and said to me, a year from now, you are going to be successful if you do these things, right? So if somebody said to me, Tara, a year from now, you are going to make $80,000. All you have to do is you have to do 2 consults a day. So get on the phone for half an hour, talk to people about coaching or about training or pace or whatever. And I guarantee that will bring you $80,000 this year. Would I do it? Absolutely. Of course I would, right? Like for sure. I love doing that. I mean, to take an hour out of my day and talk to people about this stuff, I do it every day. And if somebody guaranteed to me, but if somebody said to me, hey, Tara, you know what? You could make a guaranteed $80,000 this year if you do a live on Facebook every day or even every week. If I ask myself the question, do I want to do that? Not a chance. I don't want to do that, even if I know the guaranteed outcome is that I'm going to get, X number of clients, which is going to get me $80,000 of income for sure. I still don't want to do it. And that is a really, really, really important thing to understand about what you're doing, because, I could go and I could learn all the different ways for me to, and then just by the way, then there's the one that says, Tara, if you, here's a guaranteed $80,000 for you. All you need to do is you need to be organized and on time this year. I would say, wow, that sounds great. I can't do that yet because I don't know how. Me and time have a relationship that doesn't allow me to figure out how to sit down, look at the day and say, I could do this number of things in a day and match that to reality in any way. I have yet to develop that kind of relationship with time. So even if somebody was saying to me, there's $80,000 for you, the amount of work that I would have to do to change my personality to become one that would make me be, 10 minutes early for every appointment I go to for the next year. Is that worth $80,000 to me? Is that something that I want to modify and change? Right? So I think it's really, really important to always be asking yourself the question, if this was a guaranteed result attached to and associated to this thing that I'm doing, how does that change it? Because I think way too often people are doing things that they don't even want to do. And they're just doing them because they're prescriptive, right? And so I think in that list of, why aren't we doing some of the things that we need to do to get started, is that probably, somebody was saying to me, Tara, all you have to do is do these, live things and just be more organized. I'm going to have a hell of a time. But if somebody says to me, hey, listen, you need to get on the phone and you need to just talk to people, just talk to people one-on-one about, the merits of PACE and what it, what's involved in being a coach, and you need to coach some coaches and mentor them. Sweet. So pick your stuff with some real consideration and thoughtfulness to who you are.
Hey, Tara,
and
don't go to solution yet, please.
No, hang on. I'm just saying, make those lists, distinguish them. Okay, what you want to change and what you don't.
That's part of the solution. No, you want to. Yeah. And that's part of her problem. She gives people fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else who has a big challenge this year? Right on. Okay. So we've got an interesting list, right? We've got the challenge for Carrie is a comfort zone, and then she rethought it. She expressed it differently, but she said there's a fear of doing a whole bunch of things, right? Even when she's successful in having an online public event and the momentum's in her favor, there's some fear, right? And then Beverly was talking about all the things she couldn't do, but it wasn't about the things she couldn't do. She wasn't confident that she could do them, right? Starting them. And most of us are over sort of 30 years old, maybe Kristen's not, and starting anew. You are? Oh, there you go. So we're all over 30. If we were starting this all at 20 and we had less worldly experience, we would have far fewer fear and say, hell, I could learn this. Of course I can do this, right? And then for Liz, there just seems to be too much to do. And I think the too much, the overwhelm, is a meta state that drives you to emotional states that might prevent you from being successful. Larissa has a hard time deciding and then sticking to her decision. She feels paralyzed before she gets going, right? Paralyzed by the decision to take action. Kristen was talking about low self-confidence, which sort of resonates with Beverly, and I think fear is partially due to low confidence. Laura was talking about her own beliefs in what she's capable of, And that might be a way of talking about confidence as well. And Tara invoked, just writing a list of things you're going to do isn't good enough. You actually have to want to do them, right? And to want to do something, you need to have a why, a great big why, right?
Alan,
Most
can you just change something? Just you wrote down limiting beliefs. That last point I was making was when things are too hard, when you're doing too hard things that are too hard for your personality, for your natural talents, to your conditioning. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So there's a couple schools of thought here, right? There's a couple schools of thought. To believe anything too hard is too hard, and that's why I really believe it is a belief. Okay, so I come from a school that the only way you know something's too hard is if you try it really, really hard and you fail, right? That's the only way you really know if it was too hard. You can't decide to not do something because it's too hard. You don't know if it's too hard until you do it, right? If I go to change the tire on the car and I try and lift up the car without using the jack, that's too hard. Right? Until I do it, I don't know. Is it too hard? And think of the greatest euphoria, the greatest sense of euphoria you've ever had is when you've been really, really challenged and you rose to the challenge. And Beverly, would it be okay to speak a little bit openly about your transition through prac,
Yeah.
pre-prac and prac?
Yeah.
So Beverly was in a stuck state and went to an NLP coach and got unstuck. And in the process of getting unstuck, she said, I want to learn what you do. And she came into prac, and I think it was the third week of prac, right? You emailed me and said, I'm thinking about withdrawing. I can't learn all this. I can't do this. Yep. Right. And literally 10 weeks later, she's gone from believing that she can't do it to having this voracious appetite for books and learning. Like she's just, it's crazy, right? Her appetite for learning and growing and developing. But what was not possible on the third week of prac is, and it was literally making you fearful, making you sort of panic and anxiety. I can't keep up. I always joke with Beverly because the way she had her room lit always, that her face was in the dark, right? She literally was not showing up to prac, and now she shows up in the bright light. And when she comes into our office, she's like a ray of sunshine. So that's the transformation that's possible. So she was up against stuff. So here we have this list, and the solution to these. Who's giggling? I love the giggle. The solution to this, right? If we are to NLP this, right? If we were to NLP, we could probably find a mini breakthrough or a mini set of skills to do with everyone. And all of you guys have peers, right? It's a great way to do mini breakthroughs with each other. Lynn, you're not trained yet, but when you are, but even in your training, core transformation works on a lot of the things that people are stuck on, and wholeness works really well. But part of the solution for me, this is my opinion, is that you have to have a big, crazy why. If you don't have a big, crazy why that makes you tingle with excitement when you close your eyes and imagine it happening, then I don't think it's going to go well. I think you need to have a big why. Now, what's a big why? A big why is very relative to you. Right? My why might be small compared to your why, but I have to have a why. And don't believe me on this. Read Simon Sinek. 50 years from now, he will be seen and respected as one of the leading thinkers of our time. His book is Start With Why, right? Most people, and most people, almost all of you, when you started asking, when I said, what's your biggest challenge? You started giving me what's, right? You started giving me what's. Let me get a different board. And if you want to, I would really encourage you to go online and watch Simon Sinek, the Golden Circle podcast, TED Talk. Simon Sinek, the Golden Circle TED Talk. All right. Now he's talking about business, big business, but his teaching is applicable to things you want to accomplish personally and things you want to accomplish as a coach. And some of you, like I know Larissa has big visions, but I don't know if she has a why that corresponds with her big vision about what she'll accomplish. All right. And when you listen to Simon, almost all of you, when I said, what are your biggest problems? They were what problems? What you had to do, what you were going to do. Right. And so Simon would teach, start with why. Why are you doing what you're going to do? Why are you doing what you're going to do? And he, in the Golden Circle, he talks about Apple computer and Dell computer. Apple is a Y corporation, and through all the economic turmoils, ups and downs through time, Apple continues to grow. And when the economy's down, Dell's down. When the economy's up, Dell's up. But Apple's just up. You know, when what's his name took over again, Steve Jobs in the 90s, it's been on a trajectory up. And they're a Y corporation. If you go in our library, we have 5 posters from the 90s, and they're the educational marketing tool created by the biggest ad agency in the world, Chai Day. I have a 1984 Mac computer at home that still works. My first computer, $4,000 in June of 1984. Think about that. I spent $4,000 on a computer in 1984. And the ad during Super Bowl in 1984, it was the most expensive ad ever run. And it was of a room full of men watching this big dark screen. And a woman walked in the back of the audience and took a sledgehammer and went right through their screen and destroyed their world. Metaphorically, wow, you want to know why? I want to be on that team. And the tagline was Apple. That was it. Right? That was it. That's all they had to say. In the 90s, they came out with the phrase, think different. That was a whole marketing campaign. They had a picture of Einstein, think different. They had a Picasso, think different. Right? Gandhi, think different. So they're a Y company. We want you to think different. Oh, by the way, you want to buy an iPod? I want you to think different. Oh, by the way, you want to buy a watch? I want you to think different. You want to buy a computer? Dell is a what computer? They don't have any Y. I'll sell you a desk. I'll sell you a chair. I'll sell you. There's some what people. They have no. They don't. What is Dell Computer's purpose? Does anybody know why? No. Apple wants you to think different. Pepsi and Coke wars. Pepsi and Coke war. Pepsi was the choice of the next generation, right? Pepsi was the choice of the next generation. So you need to have a big why, right? Once you have a big why, you have to figure out how. How are you going to get to your why? I'll share a story. Tara's screen's off. Maybe your speakers are off. I've told this story to people before. At 59 years old, Christmas Eve, 59, when I was 59, Tessa was 1 year old, just over 1. And I have a threshold that I never go over in terms of my personal weight. And we were at Tara's mom and dad's house, and I climbed on the scales and I was 30 pounds overweight. Well, I'm a pretty smart guy. I had a suit on, so I stripped naked, got back on the scales in the bathroom, and I lost 2 pounds. I was 28 pounds overweight. So that altered my thinking right there in that moment. I went down, I ate different. And between Christmas and New Year's, I saw Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, Start With Why, TED Talk. And so I wanted to become fit, strong, and healthy. Most people would have started by doing what things? Change their diet, exercise. Those are what things. Right now, we're in the what month. People came, they did their New Year's resolutions, right? They're going to lose weight. They're going to do this. They joined health clubs. All what? All what? They're all what activities. And guess what? 90% of people who start will fail before February 28th because they're focused on doing what things. They don't have a why. So in that period between Christmas and New Year's, I embodied Simon Sinek's. I'm sharing this information as a metaphor with you. I don't care if you remember. I'm not telling you about my life. But I embedded in me, I wanted to be at Tessa's wedding, fit, strong, and healthy, standing with Tara, the rest of our children, and our grandchildren. I burnt that image in my brain. That's my why. Well, let's say she gets married at 25. I'll be 84. Right? So now I've got an image of being fit, strong, and healthy at Tessa's wedding with Tara, our kids, our grandkids. Right? It's beautiful. That's a big effing why. Doesn't get much bigger, right? Those of you who are parents, doesn't get much bigger than that. Okay. Now I have to know how I'm going to get there. So I used to be in the fitness industry. I mentioned that before. So I went back and started watching documentaries. I watched Forks Over Knives and Hungry for Change. I've been a vegan before. I've been a vegetarian before. I'm an omnivore again. But I watched those two movies. And I took away, when I finished them, I had two thoughts. How am I going to get to the why? I'm going to maximize my God-given genetics. And I'm going to minimize lifestyle disease. That's how I'm going to end up at that wedding. I'm going to maximize my genetics and minimize lifestyle disease. That's how I'm going to get there. Well, what becomes easy at that moment in time, doesn't it? As long as it meets those two criteria, I'm going to get there. So at 60 years old, I didn't become a marathon runner. Why? Why wouldn't I do that? Because your hips give out, your knees give out, your feet give out. That's not maximizing my genetics and minimizing my disease. That would be actually trying to get broken. When you hear what people go through, especially late in life, if you've been running your whole life, but I did start running 5K. I started running 5K fast. And I started working out with a program called Freeletics. Those were the two whats. And I adjusted my diet back to where I'm really happy. My diet and nutrition. Notice that there's no weight on that yet, huh? There's nothing about weight in the what, or the how, or the why. The goal is to be, then, where's my markers gone? People get confused about this. They think the why is the goal, the goals. Why is not the goal? Why is the end state, the vision? The goals are just benchmarks on the path getting to why. So the first step for me was to get back to my optimal weight. So I did that. Check. Second one was to run 5K fast. Check, right? You see what happens? Because the why is so big, it was no problem going out and doing Freeletics 5 days a week. Because the why was so big, there was no problem pushing the pie away from my pie hole, right? Because the why is so big, it's not a problem not to drink wine Monday to Thursday. We have a glass of wine on Friday or Saturday or Sunday, but not 7 days a week. Not a problem, because I won't get there if I do it. I started sleeping, and Tara, I'll tell you, I'm terrible. I'm not a terrible sleeper. I'm a beautiful sleeper. 30 seconds, I'm sound asleep. But I never slept very long. I didn't like the sleep. I try to sleep 7 to 7.5 hours every night. And I've been doing it religiously and diligently now for 7 years. Right? Because it's easy, because it's getting me to my why. Guess what happened next? To get to that physical why, fit, strong, and healthy, guess where it ran over? Guess where it bled over? Into our business. If I'm going to get there fit, strong, and healthy, I have to be financially fit, strong, and healthy too, right? Yes. And so now when I come to work, I'm 66. Talk to Tara. Retirement's not in my lexicon. The word doesn't exist. I keep hearing Chris Christopherson saying freedom's just another word for nothing left to do, nothing left to lose, right? Freedom 55. I just think it's a crock of shit. So, but and if you want to be retired at 55 or 45, go ahead. I want to work until I stop. I want to contribute till I stop. All the blue zone countries where people live over 100, they all participate in society every day in some way. They all do body weight exercise, walking, gardening. A lot of them, 90% grow their own food, some form of their own food, and they all have rich social lives. It says something, right? And here we are in COVID being locked away, separated from each other. It's not healthy. So yeah, so you need a big why. Laura said it, I need a big why. Cool. When you have a big why, when you have a big why, then you can know, let's talk about Liz's issue, too much. The solution is when I know why I am doing what I'm doing, and I know how I'm going to do it. So let's say I'm going to help women who have just been divorced get back on their feet. That's my why. I'm going to help women who have been gone through messy divorces get back into being their most, whatever you want to use, most complete self. The how is interesting, and then the what is you're going to NLP coach. But what NLP coaching are you going to do specifically? Right? If you're a PACE grad, you could probably use PACE, or you could take PACE and morph it into your own tool. Tara and I support you in doing that. I would love you to do that. I would love you to find an avatar, take PACE, make it better, and make it better for your avatar. That would excite us, right? So when you have a big why, because the what you're going to do, if you took PACE in that example and morphed it into your PACE, now what you're going to do is done. The too much is not too much. PACE is a 42-page book for your client, and it's a manual that's right in front of you, already pre-printed, and all the scripts are there. Just do them. And do them 10 or 20 times, and you'll be amazed. See 10 clients, and you'll be amazed at that, how simple it all is, right? And the too much, that's part of the problem of not knowing who your avatar is. Because it is overwhelming. Am I going to deal with tall people, short people, narrow people, wide people, green-haired people? What kind of people am I going to work with? People under 20, people over 20? Tara and I don't personally work with people under 20, right? Not that I can't, not that my tools, not that my skills aren't brilliant. It's not where I live. It doesn't feed my why. Right? So what is your why? Let's look at Larissa. Here we go. Larissa's goals are all what goals? I've talked to her. We've talked back and forth. They're all what? They're monetary. They're asset based. I want to live in a 6,000 square foot house and make $750 a year, or whatever the number is. 10,000 square foot house, right? But that's a what goal? And if I was Tony, is your son around, Larissa? Is he close by, or is he out of earshot?
They're playing Lego.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pull a Tony Robbins. There's going to be an F-bomb in here, right? He would say, get a effing life. Because that shit doesn't matter. If that's your pursuit, like my friend William Lamb has a monster house he's building in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he's got $800,000 worth of US of cars in his driveway. He's an NLP trainer, all right? But his why is so big. His why is so big. He wants to use NLP in artificial intelligence to create a world where people can access change everywhere. Right? So his why, his vision is so big. So when he's coaching, when he's training in his prac courses, he's training with an eye is how can I do this through AI? How can I make this an artificial intelligence interaction? Even up to the point where he wants to do it with what I do. He said, Alan, can we help people with trauma? So you're traumatized and you go into a cubicle, you put on your AI glasses and you get an experience that relieves you of the triggering mechanisms of your AI. It's a concept. It's way the hell up here. But he's got some of the best thinkers on AI in Hollywood working with him. And he has a 10,000 square foot house and $800,000 worth of cars in the driveway. It's not because he picks up the call more time than me. It's not because he runs more courses than me. He's got a big why, and in his why, the people he runs with write bigger checks than my clients. He doesn't have more clients. He hasn't trained more people. Just the people he attracts write way bigger checks. To do prac and master prac with William is $16K US. 2 courses. Think about that. Think about that. He graduated when I graduated. When he and I were on course together, he was driving a Mazda 3, MX3, and he had about $45,000 topped up on his credit cards to have done all the training. Right? Here we are, 6 years later. Get a big why. Let's go through the other problems, right? And Larissa, you need to decide, right? And if I was working with you or one of your peers are working with you, there's something in the past, you know this, where in the decision you feel you've lost. That's what I believe. And you've learned if I decide, I'll lose. And somebody has to take that and turn it into if I decide, I'll win. You know, for our American friends on this call, right? The decision to go to the moon. When your government finally said, no, we're going to be on the moon and we're going to be there by this day, that set a cause in motion, did it not? And America put men on the moon. But somebody had to decide to do it. And I bet you there was a lot of pontificating up to that decision, the cost, the benefit, you know, what would it do to the political party who decided to spend the $1 trillion to get there when there were people unemployed and hospital systems weren't running, but they made it and they got to the moon, right? Big whys, big whys. Cool. Low confidence, that's a comfort zone. Carrie, if you don't want me to give you feedback about your problem, just put up your hand because, you know, I'm not talking about you specifically, Carrie, but anybody. My beautiful wife counsels me sometimes that she feels I put people on the spot, but my intention is not.
No, please do.
My intention is I love you guys, but if your why is big, see, the comfort zone is like a parts integration. Remember, all our problems and all our parts have boundaries. So you, the person, have a boundary that was learned. You didn't come out of the womb with a boundary, right? When your mom put you first down on the ground to crawl, you would have crawled right off the balcony. You didn't have boundaries. But somewhere between 0 and 7, you learned all your boundaries. So to me, this is a boundary issue, right? And it's kind of like Marianne Williamson, the South African leader. Nelson Mandela quoted, "It's not our darkness we fear, it's our light." Right? It's our light we fear, not our darkness. And when I hear somebody like you, Carrie, say my comfort zone and fear, and people are attracted to me and then I don't follow through, you're not afraid of your darkness. You know, maybe somebody, a coach, a mother, a parent, a sibling, you know, maybe you were the princess at a dance recital and somebody told you not to show off. I told you not to let your light shine. Well, let the other girl go be the star. Who knows? I don't know. I'm making this up. But somewhere you learn to not let your light shine. When people get attracted to you and they come to you and then you don't follow through, to me, that's a Marianne Williamson, right? Issue. Right? And it's a boundary. And remember, with parts integration, we get to a boundary and then we do a behavior that loops the state back in. Remember parts integration, you chunk up, and then the person says a word back here. They loop back in. That's because you've come to the boundary of the problem. So if you're doing a behavior you've done before in other enterprises where you start to get good and then you're doing it again, you've hit the boundary of your success internal to you. You have to work and blow that boundary up. Larissa, you too. You've done this before, right? Yeah? Larissa, you've been paralyzed before to decide and stick to it? Yeah. So you're at a boundary as well. You do all this work, you're starting to get momentum, and then boom, you go there. And I had a conversation today with another NLP coach, same thing. He's running into the same pattern of physical response. Remember, our body keeps score. What's his name? Gabor Mate. When the body says no. Well, they're talking about trauma in those books, right? But the body says no to our success as well, right? The body keeps score to all the things we do. It's not just trauma, right? Here we go. Yeah, so it's like you're at the boundary of a problem. You got to blow through the boundary. And it's not a capabilities boundary, right? You have lots of capabilities. It's a belief boundary. Oh, and that's important. All boundaries are belief boundaries. I can or I cannot. Remember in your prac training, whether you believe you can or you cannot, you're right. You're right. Now, for some of you sensitive ones, when you're doing prac with me, I have a reference to David Goggins in one of the assignments, right? So if you get this far, it's in the bonus section. Text me Goggins. How many people know who David Goggins is? Yep. Cool. So he drops the F-bomb more often than anybody else, but his story is worth listening to. He was 95 pounds over the acceptable weight limit to enter the US military. And he had a job spraying for cockroaches in the city where the Ku Klux Klan was headquartered. And David Goggins is black. His life growing up was horrible. And he saw the military as a way out. And in 90 days, he lost the 95 pounds. Is that healthy? No. But is it possible? Yes. He went on, he's probably the only one who is trained as an Air Force Elite Special Forces officer, Infantry Special Forces officer, and Navy Special Forces officer. He's qualified in all three services. I don't think there's another US service person who's qualified in all three. And when he did Navy SEAL training, the last week in Navy SEAL training is called Hell Week. And they're not joking. He did 3 Hell Weeks to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody had ever done 3 Hell Weeks. And they let him keep coming back because he was a qualified SEAL, but he'd break down physically. He was a big guy. His last time through Navy SEAL camp, he had shin splints so bad he was in agony. So he took, you guys know what gun tape is? That really sticky tape. He took gun tape and he wrapped his lower legs, his calves, and his ankles so tight that his feet went numb. And that's how he got through Hell Week, right? Is it hard? How many people saw the movie Last Out with Mark Wahlberg? It's where they're soldiers. It's a war movie. It's a true story of a Navy SEAL team that got taken out except for one guy, Luttrell, who made it out. David Goggins was still serving as a Navy SEAL. At that time, he's big, he's muscular, he's 230 pounds. And he was so moved by losing 7 of his peers, he decided to raise money for the families of the Navy SEAL members who had died. So he thought he needed to do a spectacular event. So he found a guy who organizes the Moab Marathon. It's a 130-mile race in the Moab desert. And the guy's name's Chris, and David said, I want to run in the race. And Chris says, you have to qualify. Remember, David's a Navy SEAL, 230 pounds. He's not a marathon runner and not an ultra marathon runner by any stretch. And Chris said, there's a qualifying event in San Diego. You have to run 100 miles in 24 hours to qualify. There's a qualifying event. It's at the San Diego Olympic Center where they have a 1-mile track around the perimeter. And it's in 4 weeks. So David went to the 100-mile race. And at 70 miles, he describes it. He sat down with his wife at 70 miles and his body quit. He was peeing blood. He defecated all over himself and his legs were killing himself. And his wife said, I guess we're going home. No, he said, we're not. And he went to the bathroom, cleaned himself up, hydrated, took out his duct tape, taped his legs, and finished the last 30 miles. And then I think the Moab 130 was only like another 2 months after. 3 months later, he went and ran the Moab 130 and raised a bag of money for his mates. He's now come 3rd in the Moab. He's gone from a 230-pound man, Navy SEAL, to one of the best ultra athletes in the world. Listen to him, all right? Talk about doing the things you need to do when you want something bad enough. Now, I agree with Tara. Don't do things that you don't want to do. But my first business mentor, I was driving with him. I remember the moment in time. We were driving in his business, in his Mercedes-Benz in British Columbia, up this long hill. I was 29 and he was 34 and he was a multi-millionaire. And I said, Pat, if you were going to teach me one thing to be successful, what would you teach me to do? He said, I teach you to do the things you don't like to do. Right? I teach you to do the things you don't like to do. Doing things we like to do is easy. But you know, when you have a great big why, I don't know, things just all seem to get easy. I don't like doing social media. I hate it. But when I think, hey, I might help, like we're just getting ready. We run Google ads. We're just getting ready to do another Facebook campaign for people who are traumatized. And I hate it. I hate the people involved in the industry because I feel like they're ripping me off with smoke and mirrors because they know they can bamboozle me with all this words, all this jargon about how to place ads and where to place them and do that. I always feel like I'm being bamboozled, but I get excited because of the results. The last time we ran the ads in April, we attracted 287 people with trauma, right? Cool. You think that's a runaway success. Guess what? None of them had any money to pay for our services. So guess what we've done in the last 8 months? We created 2 funding sources. So the people only have to come up with 20% of the cost of getting the treatment, and funding sources will pay the other 80. Guess what we're doing again? Facebook ads. Do you think I like going asking people for money for other people's services? No, but my why is really big, right? My why is really big. I don't want people living with trauma. Get a really big why. Get a really big effing why. Cool. Kristen, low confidence, and Beverly, low confidence. How do you gain confidence? First, there are things you've done in your life that you did confidently. All right, is there not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Are there things, Kristen, that you can do all the time? Do you drive a car?
Yeah,
Are you a good car driver?
I'd say so.
Yeah. Where do you live, Kristen?
In Toronto.
Cool. And no problem getting on the 401 and driving to Kingston if you had friends? No.
I could do it in a snowstorm.
Cool. Some of you know I've lived in Iraq in 2004, right? Pretty crazy time. I lived in Uganda. I lived in Somalia during a pretty crazy time. You know, one of the places I find the most risky in my life is at the intersection of Highway 401 and 400.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a pretty confident guy. And yet Kristen just said, I go out on the 401, even in a snowstorm. No problem, Alan, I'm confident. Cool. So you are a confident person. There you go. So, and why are you confident? Because you learned to do it, you practiced it, and you've done it. So you've got to do it. You've learned the material, you've got to do it. And I don't care if you get together with the other 10 people, 12 people on this thing and say, look, I want to do swish patterns. Can I do 10 with you? 1, 2, 3, swish, 1, 2, 3, swish, 1, 2, 3, swish, clear the screen. 1, 2, 3, swish, clear the screen. Right? Until you can do them in your sleep. Right? Hey, can I anchor with you? I want to anchor. I want to chain these 5 emotions. So I'm never. How many people chain procrastination and motivation recently? Shame on you. If you're not motivated, you've got tools to use. Cool. Kristen, you got to use the tools, right? Beverly, you're so new to this. Your certificates haven't even dried yet. You shouldn't be confident, but you should be excited about becoming confident, right?
Yeah.
Because you're amazing on course. Get busy. Get busy. You and Kristen get together. Kristen's a trainer, right? Get together and just 1, 2, 3, swish, clear the screen. 1, 2, 3, swish, clear the screen.
It's more the business side. It's not as much the coaching itself. It's like starting a business and leaving.
Oh,
that's where I'm like, okay, like coaching, like I feel like I do coach clients, but now I'm going on business. Like I started my own business. I'm leaving my job. It's full time for me.
Aha. So it's not, confidence is actually fear.
Oh, is that sneaky word that I obviously deleted?
Yeah. And Joe Dispenza says, you know, the thing we fear most is the unknown. And there's also the grieving of what you're leaving behind. And of course, some people are going to look at you and say, Kristen, you left your job to do what? Yeah, well, they don't have a big enough why. Tell them your why.
Okay.
Tell them your why. Cool.
Thank you.
Who else here? Yeah, the too much and overwhelm. I think when you get really clear on what you plan to do, who you plan to do it, and where you plan to do it with, and then you go after it. And I mentioned David Goggins 3 times through Hell Week. Nobody would. You could interview 100 Navy SEALs and say, look, if it took twice to go through Hell Week, would you do it? Nope. Nope. He did it 3 times. He wanted to be a Navy SEAL, right? He's the extreme, by the way. He's 3 standard deviations outside the norm. Mm-hmm. He's in the 99.99% of what people do, but he's also an ultra marathoner. And how many people watch and listen to a lot of podcasts? Rich Roll. Anybody listen to Rich Roll? Yeah, cool. Rich Roll. You know his story? Fat lawyer. Lawyer has a heart attack, becomes an ultra marathoner, creates a food line and nutritional products. Big Y, wants to live, wants to change people's lives. How about Tom Bilyeu? Multi-100 million guy.
Yep.
Life in shambles, overweight, train wreck, drug addicted, alcohol addicted. Doesn't want people to suffer the way he does. Changes his life forever. Big Y's, right? You all listen to Joe Dispenza, or you listen to one at a time, right? Yeah, Lewis Howes also. I don't like Lewis. He's too pretty, but you guys can.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. But Joe Dispenza, Big Y, he said when he checked out of the hospital and went to his friend's house, 6.5 weeks of meditation and nothing was changing. He was still suffering, and then something snapped. And he said, if I actually do this, when I heal myself, I will make it my life's work to share this with everybody. I think he had a big why. I think he's hanging on to it, right? He hangs out with Bruce Lipton. Read the book. You guys who have been through training with us or Kim, wherever, you've all been made aware of the book, The Biology of Belief. Read that book. That's a university professor, leading researcher in stem cell research, who had an epiphany that beliefs control our biology, and he needed to share that with the world. Greg Braden, computer engineer, who understood that something was wrong in how we understood the mechanics of the world we live in, made it his mission to write books and to share some higher form of learning. Big whys. Brene Brown. Brene Brown, big why, to explore the vulnerabilities of humans, right? And to share that through legitimate, meaningful research, not conjecture, not pie in the sky, but through, I forget her style of research too, but it has a formal name. Jim Collins, who wrote Business 1.0 and 2.0, is of the same ilk, right? Big whys. Once you get a big why, then you're going to get a big how. Once you get a big how, then it gets easy to know what to do, right? It gets easy to know what to do. And I'm thinking that you get such a big why. When you get such a big why, then it doesn't really matter what you do. If you go back to my metaphor about being at Tessa's wedding, fit, strong, and healthy, and maximizing my genetics and minimizing my lifestyle disease, I could have joined a karate club. I could have joined a paddle boating club. I could have joined, I don't know, a tennis club. I could have joined a running club, because my goal, my why was so big and my goals were so clear. Lose 30 pounds, run 5K fast, right? My goals, the goals on the route to getting to why were so evident that it didn't matter what I did. What became easy? What becomes easy? And you look at the people who have, like, you look at people around you who wake up and go to work every day with passion and enjoy what they're doing. Ask them what their why is. Surprise yourself, right? I'm only making money so I can buy Chatty Cathy's Cafe in South Carolina, or North Carolina. Is it North or South?
South Carolina.
South Carolina, there you go. Right? Some of you will find this interesting. My wife finds it interesting. I watch sports occasionally, but I follow them all subliminally. So last night was the American College Football Championship at the Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And Georgia Bulldogs were playing Alabama Red Tide. In Canada, those two teams and all their support mechanisms and their big bands and their cheerleaders had more assets than all the teams in Canada. Two college teams, all the pro teams in Canada. I laughed at it. But when you look at it, the kid who quarterbacked Georgia said at 3 years old, reportedly, his parents and him, that he would be the quarterback of the Georgia Bulldogs. He went to a college and then he transferred to Georgia, and they never let him play. They always brought in bigger quarterbacks, faster quarterbacks, let them play. And then their main quarterback got hurt this year. And he stepped up and he started winning. And he won and he won and he won. And then a month ago, they lost to Alabama, same team they played last night in the championship. And all of a sudden, people turned on him. They wanted him to, oh, he's not good enough. He's not this, he's not that. But the coach believed in him and he believed in himself. And last night, in a game that was spectacularly close, he made a mistake and fumbled the ball. And when he came off the field, you could see the camera panned right on him. And he had what they call the eyes of the tiger. He was so focused, so driven. They got the ball back and he went on a romp. And they racked up 15 points. They were behind by 1 point. They racked up 16 points and defeated Alabama, who were the odds-on favorite. And at the end of the interview, when they interviewed him after the game, he was crying. He said, I believed my whole life I could do this. And when I made that mistake, I was not going to let my team down. I knew I had to change the game. That's a big why. I watch sports for the why. I watched the F1 championship this year, F1 race cars. 2 men in 2,000-pound cars driving 300 kilometers per hour, literally willing to kill each other to get to that checkered flag.
Mhm.
The things they would do in those cars, reaction times that are beyond human comprehension. Is it hard? Oh, yeah. But a big why takes you to places you've never been before. Cool. Figure out your challenges. But I'm guys, write your narrative. Start with why. Start reading outside the NLP community, please. Because your time is now. Not next year, not the year after now. Your time is now. All right, we'll have to see who hit the button fast enough. Carrie Fisher thinks she's in first. I love her. Beverly thinks she's in first. I'll tell you in a sec. Looks like Carrie's the winner on my screen. Carrie's the winner. Right on. Okay, Carrie, you've got a 90-minute session. Before you come to that session, though, have your narrative written. Tell me your why. All right. We've given lots of business coaching skills here. And when you're a sole proprietor or you're a new business, like Kristen's starting one, we all have one, right? Tara and I are fortunate enough. Tara and I argue about this. I keep saying we're fortunate enough to have a facility, and Tara says, why do we have that anchor around our necks? And we're both right and we're both wrong. But my why, I already see a team of staff doing stuff in my why. So yeah, I have to do some of the stuff today, but I won't be doing it 9 months from now, right? And we had to pay the price doing what we did along the way to get here, right? We paid a price. We gave up kid time. We gave up family time. We blew through money like crazy, just like all of you have, right? It's expensive to make change, to create the training you need, right? It's expensive.